watch this as criticism from a comedian. That is the extent to which this administration does not want to see anybody criticize them, anybody criticize their First Amendment right. And yet, for all of those efforts, there is an equal and opposite pushback that we're very clearly seeing right now. As far as the eye can see that way, and as far as the eye can see that way, there is a steady stream of endless people marching in opposition to what this administration is doing. This also comes amid the news that Donald Trump is now contending with, according to the AP, the lowest approval rating he has had in this term. 37% approval compared to 61% disapproval. So a major development there as his approval ratings continue to tank and the American people kind of recognize their agency in moments like this. This also comes in the immediate heels of talking about Jimmy Kimmel when the American people rose up against Disney. And we did see in one of the first instances of this term, the tide begins to turn against what this administration is doing, against the FCC, and Disney begins to realize, hey, my only obstacle here isn't the Trump administration. There's a bigger obstacle in the form of Americans who are actually pushing that First Amendment rights. And we're seeing a bigger display of that right here. As, again, you can see this steady stream of people. As long as we've been recording, it has not relented in the slightest. This joins hundreds of thousands of people who've taken to the streets all across the country, whether it's in Washington, D.C., where nearly 250,000 people took to the streets. Cities like Chicago, like Boston, saw massive crowds. But importantly, even in small communities with 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people in total who live there, lining the streets, lining the main drags there, so that they can have people voicing their opposition to this administration, lining the highways with signs. People were beeping at them, honking at them to show their support for what they were doing. So whether it's in big cities like the one I'm in right now, downtown Los Angeles, or whether it's in small communities across the country, red or blue, we have seen Americans mobilize today in a way that has never happened before in the history of this country. So a massive win for the organizers, a massive win for the pro-democracy movement, and a massive loss for an administration that relied on heavy-handed tactics to ensure that nobody would ever say an ill word of dear leader. Clearly what we've seen today is not just a few people voicing their dissent, but thousands and thousands just in this city, millions across the country. So again, thank you to everybody for using your voice, for recognizing that democracy is not a given, that it happens when you fight for it, when you work for it, and this is what it looks like when you are actually working for it.
Brian Tyler Cohen is one of the most watched progressive hosts online. Let's give it up for Brian!
249 years ago, how patriots in this country stood up and said, we are going to build a democracy, a country that's for the people, by the people, of the people, and we will not bow down to any monarch.
There are tens of thousands of people here in Frederica. This is enormous.
United will never be divided. The people united will never be divided. The people united will never be divided.
Look at this. Millions of people across the country marching as we speak against the policies of President Trump. This is Boston. Look at that.
Before you go, if you enjoyed this content and you want to see more and support independent media, please subscribe to this channel. The subscribe button will be right here on the screen. But second, the reality is that we are now in a political environment where this administration can lean on any of the social media platforms to suppress certain voices if they don't like critical coverage. That means my longevity here is in the hands of a few tech billionaires who are already making it clear that they are willing to cater to this administration. To that end, signing up for my newsletter is a way for... What's up, Los Angeles? God, I love living in the bastion of democracy, the bastion of resistance against Trumpism. LA, let's hear it! Beautiful. Now, I'm sure that you've seen the panic, the overwhelming panic from Republicans about today. But do you know why they hate what we're doing here and what we're doing in 2,500 other cities across America and across the world? Because here, their pressure does not work. Because we're not a law firm that can be bought off. We are not a university that can be bought off. We're not a
share this information.
that can be bought
Share
off.
this information. It's real.
We are not a media outlet that can be bought off. They hate what we're doing here because you cannot buy off millions upon millions of people taking to the streets. Because we are not leveraged by the federal government. We can't be cowed into submission because of some sick obsession with money or proximity to power. Because millions of people taking to the streets right now destroys the optics that Donald Trump and his party are so desperate to shame you for being here. That is why they're so desperate to rebrand this as a Hate America rally. But you know what hating America looks like? Hating America looks like screwing over farmers and bailing out Argentina instead. It looks like sending secret police accountable to no one into our cities. It looks like silencing comedians for the crime of making fun of dear leader. It looks like gifting yourself a $400 million jet from Qatar. It looks like building a $200 million ballroom to assuage your fragile ego while 40 million Americans are living in poverty. It looks like blocking the release of the Epstein files. Like stripping away Medicaid from 17 million Americans. It looks like right now keeping the government closed because you are so fucking hell-bent on stripping away healthcare from 24 million Americans and trying to get their costs to double, triple, or quadruple. So if you're looking for the Hate America rally, might I suggest the White House? We are here not because we hate America, but expressly because we love it. Because we know that this is a country worth fighting for. This is a country worth saving. We are here because we know that this could be a country where everybody has health care. Where we take our obligation to tackle climate change seriously. Where we protect our seniors by protecting Social Security. A country where there are not two tiers of justice, one for Republican politicians and another for everybody else. A country where we fight to defend what is now the world's oldest continuous democracy, and despite Trump's best efforts, will continue to be the world's oldest continuous democracy. A democracy where the people rule and not kings. So I have one more request here. If any of you who are marching today see any agitators, do not engage. Do not give this administration any reason to do what they are so desperate to do, which is to engage in violence to justify these troop deployments across the country. We all have a role to play here, so thank you. Everybody be safe. And one was earlier today at the No King protest in downtown LA, I was joined by tens of thousands of protesters in Los Angeles who took to the streets to make their voices heard in what ultimately became the largest protest in American history, with over 7 million Americans in 2,700 cities and communities across the country. What makes the turnout even more impressive is that many people came out despite the looming threats of violence, both organic as the result of this political climate and inorganic at the hands of a president who has been haphazardly deploying troops wherever he can. There was particular concern that he would use any violence whatsoever as a pretext to be able to invoke the Insurrection Act and turn our troops against American citizens, given the ease with which he's already deployed our military into Los Angeles, Portland, and Chicago, despite there being no justification whatsoever to do so. And look, if you watch my content, you know that I rarely, if ever, make these videos about me, but even I personally was worried about going out and being on stage publicly in a world where just a month ago we watched as a political commentator got assassinated. I had friends and family urging me not to go, and I understand why, and so I was considering not going for that very reason, but I weighed that against what it would mean to not go, to allow myself to be cowed into silence by bad faith actors who want nothing more than to take my voice away, to make me feel too afraid to be out in public for fear of someone committing an act of violence. And look, I could have stayed home and continued to make content and reach plenty of people, but it's not about that. It is about getting out into the streets and doing my part to be one of the more than 7 million Americans who marched today. And I felt personally like it was important to do that, even with the heightened risk of being a political commentator out in public and with the heightened risk of a president who is chomping at the bit to escalate tensions because he is looking for any excuse to deploy the military against Americans. And frankly, I'm glad I did go. So, to that point, I want to say thank you to everybody who came out, not just for standing in solidarity with so many people who needed to know that we're not alone, but for also doing it peacefully, for sending a message to the right that we will not be goaded into violence, for pushing back on this ridiculous Republican narrative that the left is dangerous or traffics in violence, and personally, for helping somebody like me who's been left pretty spooked in the aftermath of the Charlie Kirk shooting of going into public events or going into public spaces. Being at the No Kings protest restored some faith in humanity that we can make our voices heard without compromising our safety. And finally, a message to Trump voters out there who have spent the last week being conned by your elected officials that the left is some violent cabal looking to seek
Share
vengeance
this
on cities or
information.
Republicans or police or each other. I hope there comes a point where you recognize that the left is not your enemy. Your enemy is a political party, elected officials that need to rely on demagoguery to distract you because their agenda is too unpopular to stand on its own. At some point, I hope you can see that the problem here is not the left. It is the wealthy politicians and their donors. Before you go, if you enjoyed this content and you want to see more and support independent media, please subscribe to this channel. The subscribe button will be right here on the screen. But second, the reality is that we are now in a political environment where this administration can lean on any of the social media platforms to suppress certain voices if they don't like critical coverage. That means my longevity here is in the hands of a few tech billionaires who are already making it clear that they are willing to cater to this administration. For the No Kings Day protest and a major loss for this administration. Time and all traffic closures have been.
Large crowds in the U.S. are joining rallies against the Trump administration. More than 2,500 protests under the banner of the No Kings movement are taking place. The protesters say they are standing up against Donald Trump's authoritarian policies, accusing him of believing his rule is absolute. Top Republicans have condemned the
A constitution, not a king. It's a rallying cry for protesters all across the United States. More
Authoritarianism in America, we the people will rule.
Republican politicians have the mass demonstrations, with some referring to them as Hate America rallies. But the protests even drew hundreds to the streets in Florida, where Trump is spending the weekend at his Mar-a-Lago home.
It is intimidating. You do feel silence because this is Trump and MAGA country down here. But as you can see, there's a lot who also believe in freedom and that the Constitution still matters.
For the millions rallying across all 50 states, that Constitution
more on this, I'm now joined by Ethan Behrman. He is an adjunct professor at Loyola Law School in Los Angeles and a California talk radio host. Welcome to DW, Mr. Behrman. Do you think Trump is concerned or even feeling pressured by these kinds of protests?
Interestingly, I don't think he's terribly concerned about the protests. The only thing that he's worried about, it appears right now, is whatever it is he thinks matters in front of his own face at that moment. More importantly, part of what these protests are likely connected to is the ongoing effort by the Trump administration to pressure states into further gerrymandering districts so they don't lose the midterm House elections next year, which would remove kind of complete power that President Trump has over the federal government.
Do you see this protest movement getting even bigger then in the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, I think it will. And I think there are a lot of reasons why. One,
Now Trump, he messing it up for the Republicans because next time the voting comes, you see all them people out there. The people just gonna put the Democrats in just to put them in. If the problem is, you got to get the Democrat Party straight too. It's a problem here.
the absolutely poorly planned and poorly executed tariff implementation by this administration is harming everyday Americans, including farmers across the Midwest who can't sell to China anymore due to the president's.
You can't go to the stores and get stuff. You got to order stuff online. When you got to order stuff online, it costs you more money. If you go to stuff, looking, it ain't at the store. Like you go to Petco, get something for your dog. It ain't there. And you got to turn around and order stuff online. Cost you triple more money than you can pick it up at that store. Rite Aids, all the Rite Aids done closed down out here. It's being real. No Rite Aid. You got to go to a local store. You can't. I'm just saying, man.
Unilateral actions. Further, we have the layoffs and the furloughs from the federal government that are affecting now numerous communities around the United States, including Trump voting communities, such as.
Now everybody getting up, going hang out. They need to be checking this out. This is something to learn and telling you what's going on. Be ready for when the next 4 years come up for voting time come.
In Utah. And so this continues to grow. It continues to be more pain. And as soon as Americans figure out that 5 to 10 million of them are going to have their health insurance costs double, I would strongly believe that these protests are going to increase in size fairly dramatically.
Fairly dramatically, okay. Now, top Democrats have also joined these protests. Could this be a chance for them to strengthen their party?
Yeah.
You know, it's very interesting. The Democrats have had a challenge in this term of President Trump's. This is his second term. He's been in office about 9 more months now this time around. And they have had a very difficult time coalescing around singular and easy to understand messages. I genuinely believe that the health insurance issue is going to be a huge one, but also reaching out to the farmers. But the biggest challenge I see for the Democrats is unifying around a message on how they are going to help the average American, not just the idea of no kings and preserving our democracy, but we know from data that Americans turn out to vote based on their own pocketbooks, not kind of big picture ideas for the most part.
You've already alluded to this, but how does the government shutdown that's now in its third week play into these protests?
Yeah, and it's interesting. I want to start by prefacing by saying the way a government shutdown works here in the United States is the Congress has to pass spending resolutions. That's the House of Representatives and the Senate, and then the president has to sign them. The president has been very clear in his desire for this shutdown, to leverage this shutdown to further reduce the federal workforce, to further consolidate power under the executive branch, under something that used to be mocked, called the unitary executive theory, which is being executed rather swiftly right now by this administration. So the government shutdown is actually something the Republicans have total control over. And before anybody wants to argue that point, they did it with Trump judicial nominees. You don't have to have any Democratic votes in the Senate. More so, what we've also seen with this president is more executive orders in his first 9 months here in office in his second term than the entire Biden administration did in one term. But more so, over 4 years and 9 months of Trump's presidency, he has leveraged the executive power more than 12 years total of Biden and Obama in their presidencies. So this shutdown is just part of his strategy under Project 2025, which he claimed to disavow, but clearly has bought into and is executing upon now.
That's Ethan Behrman, adjunct professor at Loyola Law School. Thank you so much for all of that context today.
Thank you.
And DW correspondent Benjamin Alvarez-Gruber is following the protests in Washington, D.C. Earlier, he told me more about what the protesters are demanding.
As the No Kings protest name says, many of the protesters are accusing President Trump of acting rather than an elected official. They are accusing him on attacks on the First Amendment. It's a very diverse crowd gathering here in Washington, D.C. on Pennsylvania Avenue. A large crowd stretching for several city blocks. There is a stage there, and we've seen pictures from other big cities here in the United States, from New York and also from Boston. More than 2,500 bigger and smaller cities are taking part in this protest here, and organizers are expecting today's protest to be even bigger than the last nationwide King's protest that we saw in June here in the U.S.
And Benjamin, how are Donald Trump and his allies reacting to what's going on?
The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Republican Mike Johnson, called this a hating America protest. Many have been using this rhetoric of trying to paint or trying to blame the protesters, those who are heading out on the street to protest against the Trump administration, as being anti-American, anti-patriots. But we've seen many American flags and many of the protesters trying to change that. A huge crowd, of course, many different motives for those who are out here today. Some attacking, some criticizing the Trump administration, especially also for the race that we've seen with ICE, with Immigration and Customs Enforcement. There's a lot of police also surrounding this area, and that's of course one of the bigger concerns also in the protests in Chicago, where recently we've seen this increase of law enforcement, of Border Patrol, of ICE carrying out those operations. So that's something that the speakers on stage are referring over and over again, criticizing that crackdown by the Trump administration.
Yeah, and Benjamin, some states have deployed National Guard troops. How big are the concerns that these protests could escalate?
So here in Washington, the National Guard is rather on places that are really touristy. We've seen them on metro stations where many of the protesters here arrived today, because a lot of the downtown area has been closed off for vehicles. So many of them approached this area with the subway. But that's one of the bigger concerns that they have. If in case some of these protests might turn violent also later in the afternoon, later in the evening, with this increased law enforcement, with the National Guard that has been deployed here in the city as part of the visuals of many of the tourists that we also just had a moment to talk to some of them, that there are deployed to cities like Washington, also to Chicago. There's been this back and forth also that they were not able to deploy. It was the National Guard of Texas, but that is one of the bigger concerns, and also one of the bigger changes if we compare today's protest with the one that we saw in June of this nationwide no Kings protest in the U.S.
That was DW correspondent Benjamin Alvarez-Gruber in Washington, D.C. Thanks a lot, Benjamin.
Good evening and welcome to Politics Nation. Tonight's lead, taking it to the streets.
Shit off, man. That's it, awesome. Look at it.
We're following breaking news as No Kings demonstrations are underway throughout the country. Organizers have planned more than 2,500 rallies with millions expected to participate. Republicans have spent days trying to claim the protesters hate America. But many of the loudest voices at today's events have been calling for a restoration of the democratic principles this country was founded on. All of this happening as the government shutdown heads into its third week. And the Trump administration is ramping up its mass deportations of militarized crime crackdowns on America's major cities. We're going to have all of the latest, plus the rest of the day's political news. The ranking member of the House Budget Committee is standing by, and we'll have reaction to the president's surprising commutation. Disgraced former New York Congressman George Santos is out of jail after serving just a fraction of his 7-year sentence for federal crimes. But first, we have MSNBC correspondent Maya Eaglin out in Chicago right now monitoring demonstrations there, and MSNBC senior correspondent Jacob Soboroff covering the West Coast in Los Angeles right now. Maya, let's start with you. What is happening?
Yeah. Hey, Rev. So the march is kind of wrapping up. Take a look. We've got a few people with signs and flags here. There's actually a bunch of inflatable animals kind of dancing in the background. According to organizers, tens of thousands of people came out to this Chicago protest today. Nationwide, No Kings is estimating that there were 7 million people
Thanks for the
across
likes and
entire
the
country.
peeps and the
But the folks I
views.
spoke to here in Chicago say there's an extra layer of frustration in response to some of the ICE arrests and violence that they've seen from federal forces here. I want to play some of my conversation with a younger protester who came out here. Take a listen to what she had to say.
This lady was asking for directions in Spanish, and my grandmother was speaking to her in Spanish, and out of nowhere, ICE just comes up and grabs them, rips them apart, and my grandmother's interrogated, like, do you know her, where you're from, where are your papers? And my grandmother didn't know her, and she started speaking English, and for some beautiful reason, my grandmother had a copy of her birth certificate, her social security card, and her ID, had to tell her whole ancestral line story of how she's from Texas. It was terrifying. She was scared going all the way home. Luckily, they let her go.
Now, Issa told me she felt a sense of hope actually being out here with so many people who were feeling the same frustration as she was. We also heard from the mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson. We heard from Governor Pritzker, kind of really painting a much different picture of Chicago than President Trump. President Trump, of course, saying that Chicago is violent. It is a place where there's lots of chaos. But take a look around me, guys. I mean, there are people with flags. There are people dancing. There are people shouting. There are unicorns. This is definitely not the picture of violence that we've been hearing from the White House, and local officials were echoing that today. Rev.
Thank you to MSNBC's Maya Eaglin in Chicago. We go now live to Los Angeles, where NBC News correspondent Jacob Soboroff is standing by. Jacob, set the scene for us, please.
Let's see what Jacob's been talking about. Let me see what Jacob's been talking about.
In downtown Los Angeles, that the cell service is jammed, so that we're having a hard time getting our signal out. But what I will tell you is that you can hear the people joining in unison to oppose the President of the United States. This is the city right now where those ICE raids started 4 months ago. And 4 months ago, on these various streets of downtown Los Angeles, people spontaneously came out to push back, stand up, and say they will not accept what was playing out on the streets of Los Angeles. Remember, Greg Bavino, who's running that operation for the Border Patrol in Chicago, was first here. And Mayor Karen Bass said at the time that she believed that this was like a petri dish, an experiment for Donald Trump to bring his militarized troops attempts to try to usurp the power of local leaders all across the United States of America. And in some measure, she was right. J.B. Pritzker told me that he believes that we could see troops standing outside ballot boxes come Election Day 2026. He said if people don't get out in the streets and push back, there's no telling what Donald Trump might do next. And I think the people have gotten that message, Reverend Al. There were 20,000 people out here 4 months ago when this all got started. They expect double that today. This rally is just right now getting started, and these folks are going to march. They're going to march through the streets of downtown Los Angeles to make their voices heard. The signs are as varied as the people and the places that they come from. I just saw one, as a matter of fact, Reverend Al, I don't know where she went now, but that said yes on Prop 50, that proposition to redraw the congressional lines here in California to push back on that redistricting effort, the gerrymandering effort in Texas. So anything you can imagine, everything you can imagine, people are pushing back on the president, and it's all happening here on the streets of Los Angeles. Rev?
Hey, thank you to NBC's Jacob Soboroff in Los Angeles. Joining me now is Senator, U.S. Senator Tina Smith, Democrat of Minnesota. Senator, we appreciate you being with us tonight. After you spoke at a No Kings rally earlier today in Minneapolis, before I get to other issues, what can you tell us about your experience?
Well, Reverend Sharpton, I just got home a few minutes ago, and downtown Minneapolis was filled with people, all different kinds of people from all different ages and backgrounds. And I would say that there was a feeling of like resoluteness and also real joy and real sense of solidarity as we came together. And I honestly think the way that President Trump and some of his friends were basically trash talking the folks that were going to show up at these rallies really encouraged more people to show up. There was nothing. It was a very patriotic feeling. Lots of flags, and it gave me a real boost, I have to tell you.
Now, on that note, all week long, Republican lawmakers have cast these protests as anti-American, with House Speaker Mike Johnson going so far as to call them Hate America rallies. As you know, he didn't stop there. Take a listen.
You're going to bring together the Marxists, the socialists, the Antifa advocates, the anarchists, and the pro-Hamas wing of the far-left Democrat Party. That is the modern Democratic Party. That's where they've gone. And the Hate America rally is the common theme among all those groups. Listen to the language they use themselves. Many of them don't like living in America. They hate capitalism. They hate our free enterprise system. They hate our principles. This rally is not about freedom. It's about the opposite. For many of our Democrat colleagues, tomorrow is really a spectacle.
What do you make of GOP colleagues in Congress conflating opposition to the president's agenda with hating America?
Well, they are making exactly the point that so many of my fellow Minnesotans and Americans, millions of Americans, upwards of 7 million Americans today, he's making exactly the same point, that in this country, we do not swear allegiance to a man, to a king. We swear allegiance to our democratic values. And that is what people were celebrating and lifting up today. The level of disrespect that the speaker is showing for his fellow Americans is really, it's not stunning because I've heard it before, but it is so out of touch. One of the things that I noticed in Minneapolis, Reverend Sharpton, was that this wasn't a party event. It wasn't organized by Democrats or Republicans. It was organized by community groups. And I know that there were people there today who've never been to a large public demonstration like this before, but they felt it was so important because of the infringements on free speech. The man that I spoke to who said that he was there because he understood the value of American citizenship and what it meant to be able to express your views without fear of retribution or retaliation. I mean, those are the most American of values.
Today's protests come as the shutdown of the federal government is well into its third week with no end in sight. Obviously, these protests were planned in advance of the shutdown, so they're not explicitly tied to it. But with that backdrop, what have you heard from demonstrators about this political battle playing out in Washington right now?
Well, from demonstrators, I've heard this, and also yesterday I was on a big Zoom call with quite a few Minnesota farmers, and what they are saying to me is, "Thank you, Tina, for fighting. My health insurance premiums are going to triple next year unless the Republicans do something, unless the Republicans work with Democrats, and I can't afford that." The lack of security, the sense of insecurity that people feel as they watch their costs going up while their incomes are not, is really terrifying, especially to these farm families who have had such a rough year because of the Trump tariffs. So I think that it is past time for these House Republicans to come back to Washington and talk to us, and let's find a path forward that helps all of our constituents.
All right, thank you to U.S. Senator Tina Smith of Minnesota. Joining me now, Sarah Parker, organizer of today's No Kings protest. Let me thank you for joining us, Sarah, your organization and the coalition.
This moment to be standing up with the millions of people that street. It was overwhelmingly peaceful. I think we really pushed back against the campaign that we saw for the last 2 weeks. And I was in DC and I saw courage. I saw joy. I saw, even in the moment of, because we see what's happening in DC, I saw hope.
Republicans claim that these protests are hate America rallies, despite you and other organizers saying these protests are about President Trump's turn toward authoritarianism. Trump has spent the day golfing, pausing only to say this about the protests last night before he left D.C.
King, this is not a king. You know, saying they're referring to me as a king. I'm not a king.
Right.
What's your response to that?
You know, first I want to address the Hate America rallies. These are everyday Americans. These are local organizers and volunteers that came out and they pushed back. They pushed back against being fighted. They pushed back against people being kidnapped out of their homes. These are the people that they should be representing. For them to say that we hate America, I think the people that hate America are the people that don't want to give Americans health care. I think the people that hate America are the people that are upset that people are protesting and utilizing dissent, even though this country was built on that. As far as him saying that he's not a king, I'm pretty sure the White House posted him with the crown. So I think he should talk to the social media team. We are on the pathway to authoritarianism, and we see that. We see that by the militarization of the police. We see that by them attacking the media. We see that by them banning books. I live in Florida. We know the signs. We learned history. I learned history. And I think that they should pick up a history book. If he 100% believes that he is not acting like an authoritarianist, I don't even know what to say. He's obviously in denial.
Now, the Trump administration increasingly talked about going after the organized. Any political resistance would turn out for No Kings being on a massive scale for a second time. Does the threat of being targeted for speaking out concern you or the other No King organizers at all?
Yeah, so I'm a national coordinator with 5051. It's something we've talked about since January when we started mobilizing. I think our organizers are going to continue to do the work. They know that it's not only a right, it is their duty to fight back and push back against authoritarianism. I know the No Kings Coalition, we are going to stand together. This is our country. We love our country. We know that if we do not speak up, that's when democracy dies. As far as myself personally, I know that the people that came before me, the civil rights leaders that came before me, they were also persecuted. They were also shamed and made to feel like something horrible was going to happen. Things horrible did happen. This is the path that I decided to take. This is the path that the organizers decided to take because they love their country that much. And that should say something.
Now, what is next for No Kings movement after this second round of marches? How do you sustain and capitalize on the political momentum that you have built?
Yeah, so, we had hands off and it was 3 million. And then we had the first No Kings and it was
million. Now we're at 7 million. I think the work continues, and I think that each organization that's a part of No Kings Coalition, including 5051, they're going to go back into their local towns and they're going to do the work that needs to be done. They're going to organize their community. They're going to keep talking. They're going to keep sharing information and sharing stories. They're going to keep making sure that their voice is heard. We know that this is just a chapter in this book, and we know that the work doesn't stop today. This is just one day. Even more so tomorrow. Tomorrow is when the real work starts. So taking that momentum and bringing it home, I'm currently in DC, so bringing it home to Sarasota is going to be incredibly important because we have a lot of work to do on a local level.
Now, you know, I started as a teenager in civil rights work and still am involved in that, leading marches. Let me ask you this, Sarah. What brought you personally to being involved and sacrificing to be involved in this movement?
Yeah, Reverend Shelton, of course, I know when you started. I grew up in the middle of Georgia, in a population of about 600 in Garfield. My great-grandmother made me read books every summer about different civil rights activists and about slavery. And I think that's really what started it for me, right? Like knowing that I had to stand up for injustice, knowing that other people before me stood up for injustice. I really hit the ground running during Occupy and during Black Lives Matter. But it's been in me since I was a little kid and I was barefoot in the middle of Georgia.
All right, wow. Sarah Parker, one of the organizers of No Kings Marches, thank you for joining Politics Nation tonight. Coming up, the government shutdown is headed into its third week. We will get you an update on what's happening behind the scenes in Congress from the ranking member of the House Committee. That's next. Welcome back to Politics Nation. We're following the No Kings Day protests taking place across the nation against the backdrop of what is now the third longest government shutdown in U.S. history, now in its 18th day. Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson has once again shuttered Congress for the upcoming week, instructing Republican lawmakers to stay in their home districts and out of Washington. Joining me now is Pennsylvania Congressman Brendan Boyle, ranking member of the Budget Committee and a Democrat. Congressman Boyle, before we get into the shutdown, we've been following the No Kings demonstration all day around the country, and you yourself hit the streets of downtown Philly earlier today. What are your thoughts on what you saw?
Yeah, it was great to be there. Absolutely a large, beautiful crowd that marched from City Hall all the way to Independence Hall and then had a rally where I spoke with, in my view, the greatest backdrop you can possibly have in America, Independence Hall. So thousands and thousands of people, and as we just learned in your past segment, we were part of a record-making 7 million people who protested nationwide. It was a great thing to be a part of, but also an incredibly joyous and hopeful spirit that really struck me.
Now let's switch gears to the shutdown. Now headed into its third week. Are there any serious talks happening right now?
Well, it's a little hard to have those talks when the Republican Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, has literally shut down the House of Representatives. He canceled session 3 weeks ago. He canceled it 2 weeks ago. He canceled it last week. And now he has yet again, for the fourth week in a row, canceled House session. It is absolutely remarkable. You have thousands and thousands of federal workers who are expected to show up for work and not get paid. And yet here you have the Republicans letting all of their members go home. It is absolutely astonishing. It's wrong. We should be back in session right now, coming to a resolution of this problem.
The Trump administration has said they intend to permanently slash more than 10,000 federal jobs during this government shutdown, including those who oversee the nuclear weapons stockpile, people at the CDC who fight diseases like measles and Ebola, and even special education specialists at the DOE. Although some of these cuts are tied up in court, what could be the long-term impact if they're able to run them through?
You know, it really is amazing. Right around this time last year, Donald Trump sadly won my state of Pennsylvania by about 1 point. And he did it because he convinced enough people that he was going to lower their costs. Here we are a year later. Costs haven't gone down. In fact, they're even higher today than they were a year ago. But what this administration has achieved is to bring back measles. What this administration has achieved is to actually, for the first time in my lifetime, cripple the expertise of government in critical areas such as fighting diseases, as well as you pointed out, when it comes to our nuclear weaponry. So I do fear that the damage from this administration will last years and years longer than Donald Trump is actually president. It will be essentially a decade-long effort to rebuild our federal government infrastructure, given all of the damage that has been done just in the last year.
Speaker Johnson still is not sworn in Arizona Congresswoman-elect Adelita Greenhalber, the Democrat who won her special election 3 weeks ago. Meanwhile, the latest drop of Epstein documents from the House Oversight Committee includes the transcript of an interview with former Trump Labor Secretary Alex Acosta, and shows a series of meetings between Epstein and a former prosecutor who played a role in Epstein's 2008 non-prosecution deal. What is happening here? Do you think the speaker is using the
Thanks for the vote. What you think?
to keep these files from
Is it right or wrong?
being released?
Is it right or wrong?
There's simply no question about it.
What they doing?
My colleague, member-elect Grijalva, who should have been sworn in by now, she's the duly elected member of Congress for that constituency. It is denying some 3/4 million people in Arizona
What do you think?
from having the representative
Thanks for the like.
elected. The reason why, of course, Speaker Johnson is doing
Thanks for the
that
views, too.
is that Representative Grijalva would be the 218th signature on the discharge petition, which is exactly the number needed to give us a vote that we have the votes to pass, enough votes to pass, and release the Epstein files. So make no mistake about it. This is quite clearly about protecting Donald Trump and keeping the Epstein files under wrap.
So again, if Grijalva is sworn in, she could give that one needed vote to make the Epstein files go public, because that's the number you need to make that happen. Before I let you go, I've got to ask you about the president commuting the 87-month prison sentence for your former colleague, New York Congressman George Santos, who was convicted of wire fraud and aggravated identity theft. Not only did Trump get Santos out of jail, he also wiped his fines, so Santos no longer has to pay $370,000 in restitution to his victims. What are your thoughts?
I mean, it is such a disgrace. This is now the 10th Republican politician who was sentenced and in jail who Donald Trump has pardoned. Every single one of them, as I pointed out, a Republican. This president clearly has one rule. If you are with him, if you are of his party, then he will bust you out of jail. And if you're a Democrat, then he won't. That is dangerous for the cause of justice in the United States.
Pennsylvania Congressman Brendan Boyle, thank you for being with us. Coming up, J.D. Vance calling it child's play, but leaked racist chats have revealed a major bigotry problem at young Republican chapters across the country. I'll tell you about it in next as we go into this week's Gotcha. This week, young Republican groups around the country were rocked by a major scandal after Politico published leaked chat logs riddled with racism and bigotry. Thousands of pages worth of messages were sent by prominent leaders of the organization. It contained references to African Americans as monkeys and watermelon people. as well as praise for Hitler and the Holocaust. Many Republicans responded the right way by denouncing the offensive text. Republicans in New York and Kansas disbanded their young Republican chapters and vowed to make a fresh start. A Staten Island assemblyman fired his chief of staff after he was caught on one of the threads. But Vice President J.D. Vance had a different take on the scandal. Take a listen.
But the reality is that kids do stupid things, especially young boys. They tell edgy, offensive jokes. Like, that's what kids do. And I don't want us to grow up in a country where a kid telling a stupid joke, telling a very offensive stupid joke, is cause to ruin their lives. And at some point, we're all going to have to say, enough of this BS.
Vice President Vance wants us to believe that chats praising Nazis and joking about genocide were just childish pranks, even though many of the participants in the chat weren't even college-aged, ranging from 24 to 35 years old. These weren't kids. He has the audacity to make that argument on Charlie Kirk's podcast, mere weeks after he, Vance, suggested that people who make jokes about the late conservative commentator's assassination should be reported to their employees. There can be no moral relativism when it comes to political violence and hate speech, whether it comes from the left or the right. We must denounce it fully. I condemn political hatred regardless of who propagates it, and I call on our vice president to do the same. The racist and repugnant Republican chats should serve as a wake-up call that it's time for the grand old party to grow up. I got you.
We are back with MSNBC's continuing special coverage of the No King's Day protests happening across the country. I want to bring back my colleague, Nnamdi Igwanwu. He is standing by in Houston, Texas, and our senior national correspondent, Jacob Sobroff, in L.A. Nnamdi, take us there. You know, I've been saying it for the last 2 hours. People expect these protests in New York. They expect them in L.A. In deep red Houston, Texas, not so much, but you are surrounded by people and have been for the last few hours.
That's exactly right, Stephanie. Thousands of people, and they're only just started in a couple of minutes. This is going to turn into a march where they're going to march a couple of blocks down to another block. This is a crowd that has been very expressive but peaceful. They have condemned several aspects of the Trump administration. A lot of people have spoken about ICE. A lot of people feel Trump is targeting DEI. A lot of people feel like they're seeing overreach from this administration. The organizers of this, 5051, expect this to be the largest single-day mobilization effort in the country. The first rally, the first time they did this in Houston in June, 15,000 people showed up. They think this will be bigger. I actually have with me now one of the organizers with 5051. Her name is Bethany. You work with the Houston group. You helped put this together. Just tell us how you feel about the turnout we're seeing and how expressive this crowd has been.
It's awesome to see a crowd with this size. The biggest thing, though, when this many people come out, is making sure that they continue doing something. It's easy to get 26,000 people out like we did last time, but only a fraction of those people actually join an organization and start joining the resistance and doing something about it. We mentioned at the beginning, resistance is a multi-lane highway. Protesting is only one of those lanes. It's important that these people find another lane and they start making a difference in another place.
Well, let me ask you, we heard from Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett earlier. Part of her speech went after how Republicans have described the people that are going to come to this event, suggesting that they don't love the country, they're anti-American, they're Antifa. What if you, a lot of the speeches have responded directly to that line of attack. What's your response to people who are condemning the people who came today?
So I'm so sorry, I'm saying it one more time.
What's your response to people who condemn this crowd as being Antifa?
I've spoken to a couple of veterans who said that's literally what they fought against. They are anti-fascist. So I think I should be proud to say that the people out here are Antifa. We don't agree with a fascist government. The people who are out here who are fighting against, obviously people have different opinions. There are people who don't agree with all of my opinions. There are people who don't agree with all the speakers' opinions. But overall, we don't agree with the fascist women out here. And we're finding all those disagreements, but we're still coming together to fight against the Trump administration who's pushing back against so many of us.
And actually, we saw at the last Houston rally, the last Houston demonstration, not a single arrest. A theme of the messages I've been hearing is that we want this to be peaceful. This is actually about unity and community. Can you talk about why it's so important for you all to focus on that part of the message?
Yeah, I mean, if we all get arrested, what can we do? That's what they're focusing on. That's what they want. They want us to make trouble. They want us to get arrested. They want us to be scared, and they want us to stand down. By being peaceful, by coming out here and using our voices in a peaceful manner, we can build more people out here. We're not going to get a bunch of old people and kids out here if we're fighting everyone. We're not going to get the people of Houston out if they're scared because we're being violent. It's important that we are nonviolent protesters. People talked about doing strikes. They talked about, for example, I'm a teacher. I stand up at work against the Ten Commandments bill. You stand up in nonviolent ways to build camaraderie, to build bravery, and make sure people aren't scared to stand up and stand out.
Thank you so much for your time. And Stephanie, I'll tell you that really has been a theme of this entire thing. Unity, being peaceful, and coming together. Congressman Crockett encouraged this crowd to turn all of this action into momentum, not only ahead of next year's midterm, but there is also an election in Houston next month that she wants these crowds to go and turn out to. So we're going to continue covering this. Like I said, they're going to start marching any minute now, and things have been peaceful. We're sure it's going to remain that way as well. Stephanie.
We're going to check back in with you soon. Jacob, take us back to Los Angeles. We've met a unicorn. Maybe there was a bunny. Who else have you met in the last few minutes?
For you, Steph.
Oh,
Baby Trump balloon has showed up on the scene. Let's go take a quick look. Tony, let's go give it a quick look. I saw it marching down through the park from that side of downtown Los Angeles over here closer to City Hall. It will go on the move. It is a veteran of many protests here in the Los Angeles area. You can see it there in its diaper and with its, I guess that's a necklace on. Check this out, Steph. People are trying to occupy every piece of real estate they possibly can before this protest officially gets underway. This person has climbed to the top of the light pole here at the edge of Gloria Molina Park. Hi, guys. How are you? What's up? It's nice to see you. Thank you very much for coming up.
LA Valley.
It's so nice to see you.
And the book, which I have.
Thank you guys for being here. We're live on the air, actually, so nice of you to say hello. Guys, come this way. Come this way. I want to go say hi to some of the people that are out here. It's already electric, Steph, and all these people are in the middle of the road. First, there were some musical performances that were happening. Now there's a bit of a rally that's taking place, and then everybody's going to take off in a minute. How are you? I'm Jacob.
Jacob, how you doing?
What's your name?
My name is Steve Hill. I'm going to be a candidate for the 37th Congressional District because I'm sick of this.
No kidding. So you decided to run for office. What motivated you?
Well, I come from a military family. Me and my family fought for this country since the Civil War. My father fought in World War II. My brother fought in Vietnam. Nephew, Desert Storm. I spent 6 years in the United States Marine Corps. And we have a constitution for a reason. It provides us inalienable rights that we have to adhere to. And in this country, we have no kings, period.
What was it like for you to see members of the Marine Corps 2 blocks down 4 months ago defending the federal building, the ICE detention center? Some of those men and women were from right here in Southern California.
It hurt me. I went down and talked to them. I told them, I informed them that you can file conscientious objector status and not be down here. I learned that about my 4th day in boot camp, that Posse Comitatus that was established in 1878. We do not put military troops on the streets of America. So when I saw that, I was enraged. And I was down here standing next to the Marines, telling them, remain calm and hurt no one.
I see you with your American flag wrapped around your neck. To the people that say, the people protesting on the streets today hate America, you say what?
I love America. I will fight for America. I will die for America. And if you don't understand the Constitution, learn it, because it means something to us.
Good luck in your campaign. It's so nice to meet you.
Pleasure.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it. There you have it. Running for office, it doesn't get much more civically involved than that. Steph, let's see. Maybe if we have another second, I'll just cruise through and see if we can meet some other people as they're waiting here. Hey, how are you? Hello. How's everybody doing? Maybe I'll say hi to them. Can I say hi to you guys quickly? Sorry to just jump in. We're live on MSNBC. Can I say hello? What are your names?
Destiny.
Destiny and?
My name is Brenda.
And what's your name?
I'm Logan.
What brings you guys out today? Who wants to go first?
Yeah, I've been involved in activism for a little while. Oh, I'm on the news. What the heck? Hi.
don't know. I just think that our community should stand up for each other. And that's pretty much it, I guess.
You say if there's money for a parade, then there's money for Medicaid.
Exactly. I just want to.
Thank you, Washington. Thank you, indivisible. Thank you to the millions of Americans from our smallest towns to our largest cities in every state in our country who are gathering today at thousands of rallies. Mike Johnson, the Republican Speaker of the House, called these rallies Hate America events. Boy, does he have it wrong. Millions of Americans are coming out today not because they hate America. We're here because we love America. We're here because we're going to do everything we can to honor the sacrifices of millions of men and women who over the last 250 years fought and sometimes died to defend our democracy and our freedoms. In 1776, with extraordinary courage,
Thanks for the votes and thanks for the views. Share this information.
that they would no longer be ruled by the King of England. A king who had absolute power over their lives. They demanded freedom. And to bring that about, they fought a bloody war against the British Empire and the most powerful military in the world. Tens of thousands of Americans died in that 8-year war, but our forefathers fought on and they won. And in 1789, after winning that war, they did something extraordinary. They established the first democratic form of government in modern history. They said loudly and boldly to the entire world, no more kings. In America, they said, we the people will rule. And today, today in the year 2025, in this dangerous moment in American history, our message is exactly the same. No, President Trump, we don't want you or any other king to rule us.
Come on now, hit them likes. Hit them likes. Hit them likes.
Form of society.
Hit them likes.
We will not
Share this information.
authoritarianism in America. We, the people, will rule.
Hit them likes. Hit them lights.
As the nation's first president, George Washington called this attempt at self-government, quote, an experiment entrusted to the hands of the American people, end quote. My fellow Americans, in an unprecedented way, that experiment is now in danger. It is in danger when we have a president who wants more and more power in his own hands and in the hands of his fellow oligarchs. It is in danger when we have a president who claims that peaceful protests in Portland, Oregon, or Chicago, Illinois, is an insurrection and calls in the U.S. military, and then threatens to arrest the mayors and governors who resist them. It is in danger when we have masked agents working for ICE, breaking down doors, throwing people into vans without due process, and taking them to God knows where. It is in danger when we have a president who sues and intimidates the media, who wants no criticism of him and his policies, and who undermines the First Amendment of our Constitution, the very foundation of American democracy. Our country is in danger when we have a president who threatens to arrest or imprison political opponents who stand against them, including the Attorney General of New York State, a sitting U.S. Senator, and the Governor of California. It is in danger when we have a president who undermines freedom of thought and dissent at our colleges and universities, and who attacks law firms that oppose him in court. It is in danger when we have a president who threatens to impeach judges who rule against him. It is in danger when we have a president who ignores Congress, refuses to spend money that Congress appropriates, and takes away money from states who voted against him. It is in danger when we have a president who demands that states redraw congressional maps to ensure that his chosen candidates win future elections. It is in danger when we have a president who illegally fires tens of thousands of federal employees right here in Washington, D.C. and throughout our country, and rips up union contracts that workers have fought for and won. It is in danger when we have a president who grossly violates the Constitution by accepting gifts from foreign leaders, including a $400 million plane from the royal family of Qatar, and then allows that family to build an Air Force facility in Idaho. Let us be clear. This moment is not just about one man's greed, one man's corruption, or one man's contempt for the Constitution. This is about a handful of the wealthiest people on earth who, in their insatiable greed, have hijacked our economy and our political system in order to enrich themselves at the expense of working families throughout this country.
about Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, and the other multi-billionaires who were sitting right behind Trump when he was inaugurated. Remember that? The very same billionaires who funded his campaign, who have bestowed gifts upon him, and who have seen huge increases in their wealth and power since Trump took office. Yeah, yes, I am talking about the insanity of one person, Mr. Musk, owning more wealth than the bottom 52% of American households. I'm talking about the incredible injustice of the top 1% in America now owning more wealth than the bottom 93%. I'm talking about the richest people in America becoming much, much richer, while 60% of our people live paycheck to paycheck, struggling every day to pay their rent and mortgages, pay for child care and education, pay for their health care and prescription drugs, afford decent quality food for their kids, and maybe, just maybe, put aside a few bucks for their retirements. I am talking about our nation, the richest country in the history of the world, having the highest rate of childhood and senior poverty of almost any major country on earth. I am talking about our great nation, having 85 million Americans uninsured or underinsured, and 800,000 people who are homeless, including people a few blocks from here. All the while Mr. Musk is on his way to becoming a trillionaire. I'm talking about the incredible danger of the richest people in this country pouring hundreds of billions of dollars into artificial intelligence and robotics, which in the next decade will decimate tens of millions of jobs for the American working class. I'm talking about a billionaire class who believe that they have the divine right to rule, and who not only want massive tax breaks for themselves, but who reject any form of accountability or checks on their power. My fellow Americans, we rejected the divine right of kings in the 1770s. We will not accept the divine right of oligarchs today. And now let's take a brief look at where we are today on the 18th day of a government shutdown, which is depriving millions of federal employees of the paychecks they desperately need and deserve. Let me cut to the chase and tell you exactly what this shutdown is all about. As a result of Trump's big, beautiful, disgraceful bill, which made massive cuts to Medicaid, 15 million low-income and working-class Americans are going to lose the health care they desperately need to stay alive. My friends, studies suggest that when you throw those 15 million people off of the health care they presently have, 50,000 of them will die unnecessarily every single year. 50,000 Americans will die unnecessarily every single year. But that's not all. As a result of that same terrible piece of legislation, over 20 million Americans are going to see on average a doubling of their health insurance premiums through the Affordable Care Act. In my state of Vermont just the other day, people received notices from insurance companies that their health care premiums in some cases would triple or quadruple. And that is going on all over the country. At a time when we already pay, by far, the highest prices in the world for health care, millions of Americans are going to see outrageous increases in their health care premiums, which they cannot afford. Why is that happening? Why are the Republicans making a broken healthcare system, a dysfunctional healthcare system, even worse? Why are they bringing our healthcare system to the verge of collapse? We all know the answer. We all know the answer. It was to give $1 trillion in tax breaks to Mr. Musk, Mr. Bezos, Mr. Zuckerberg, Mr. Ellison, and the rest of the 1%. $1 trillion in cuts to Medicaid and the ACA, $1 trillion in tax breaks for the 1%. That, my fellow Americans, is what this shutdown is all about. And let me be as clear as I can be. No, I will not vote for a budget that throws 15 million Americans off their health care. No, I will not vote for a budget that doubles premiums for 20 million Americans. No, I will not vote for a budget that forces nursing homes, rural hospitals, community health centers to lay off staff and close their doors throughout this country. All to give huge tax breaks to the billionaire class. So today, right now, I say to my Republican colleagues, come back from your month-long vacation. Start negotiating and do not allow the American healthcare system to be destroyed. End this shutdown. My fellow Americans, we are the greatest country in the history of the world. And when we stand together and don't allow demagogues to divide us up, there is nothing that we cannot accomplish. Yes, we can create a vibrant democracy by ending Citizens United and not allowing billionaires to buy elections. Yes, we can join the rest of the industrialized world and guarantee health care to every man, woman, and child as a human right. new generation to enjoy the American dream and own a home of their own. Yes, we can make public colleges and universities tuition free and have the best child care and public school system in the entire world. Yes, we can expand Social Security so that every senior in our country can retire with dignity. Yes, we can raise the minimum wage to a living wage and guarantee every worker the right to join a union. Yes, we can lead the world in transforming our energy system away from fossil fuels and create millions of good jobs as we save the planet. Yes, we can guarantee that every woman in this country has the right to control her own body. Yes, we can have a foreign policy that guarantees that never again will American taxpayer dollars be used to starve children in Gaza or anyplace else. And now let me raise the question that I've been asked over and over again. You know, Bernie, great ideas, but how are you going to pay for them? Great question. Thanks for asking. And here is the answer. At a time when the wealthiest people in America have never, ever had it so good. At a time when billionaires are paying an effective tax rate lower than a truck driver or a nurse. Yes, the top 1% and large profitable corporations will pay their fair share in taxes. My fellow Americans, the establishment, including the corporate media and many of my colleagues in Congress, want you to believe that you are powerless. They want you to believe that you cannot change the status quo. But that is a lie. Throughout the history of our country, when Americans have stood up and fought for justice, they have prevailed. When the founders stood up to King George, they were told it was impossible, but they won. When abolitionists fought to end slavery, they were told it was impossible, but they won. When workers organized to form unions and stood up to their bosses, they were told it was impossible, but they won. When women demanded the right to vote, they were told it was impossible, but they won. When black Americans fought to end segregation, they were told it was impossible, but they won. When the LGBT community stood up for their rights, they were told it was impossible, but they won. Brothers and sisters, they did it then, we can and will do it now. And how do I know that we will succeed? Take a look at this huge crowd right here in our nation's capital. But it is not just here, as I understand it today, October 18th, 2025, there are more people out on the streets in more communities all over our country than we have ever seen in American history. Brothers and sisters, this is not the end. This is just the beginning. Together, when we stand united, when we don't allow Trump or anybody else to divide us up by the color of our skin or where we were born or our sexual orientation, when we stand together, we will create the kind of nation that you and I know we can become. We can and will create a nation devoted to freedom, justice, and democracy. Thank you all very much.